Okay, welcome back. This is episode 3 of YAP with me. I'm just gonna turn this into a bi-weekly thing now because weekly thing is kind of hard and I kind of recorded the day or two before. So, yeah. And I'm really excited for today's topic. Last week was not my best work. I feel like I was just really trying to get it out there because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 2 weeks already, and I originally wanted to be weekly things. So I'm like, oh, let me record something real quick. But this topics, or this idea, have been in my brain for a little bit. I've been thinking about it, adding things to it, and I just do a little guide down here on my laptop. So if you see me looking down, that's why. But I'm really excited for this week's topic. It's called Ignorance of Youth, and how certain things I strongly believe right now it's completely different from how my view before. And yeah, or it might need as significance, not like my strong moral values, something like that, but it's I'm just I think of something polar opposite. I'm just why did I thought of that before? How did it come to right now, right? And we're gonna discuss a few topics, mostly just things that I just things really differently now. So first one is pay gap. I remember in high school there was this one girl. She was just freaking out about, it's oh, women are not paying pay as same as men. Was very vocal about it, and I just thought this girl is crazy. Okay, don't judge me because I'm just that's not a thing, right? Why would there be page gap? What year we living in now? Exactly, what year we living in now, right? And now I'm just of course I will be upset if that was me. If I have the same credential, do the same amount of work, and I get less pay for my work just because of my gender, just of gender discrimination, that's kind of BS. And who would want that? Right? I don't know why I thought differently before. No, I didn't care because I didn't think it was a thing. I don't know why. Well, yeah, you can do so much with money. Right? Another thing is feminism. My idea of feminism was really narrow before. I thought it's women wanting to be equal to men. I was why? Right? We're totally different with different gender, blah 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 blah. And it's just the idea of two genders, I think, is commonly accepted but doesn't make it true. It's also a cultural thing too. There are certain places they believe in third gender, all that things, and then there's people who are intersex and stuff like that. And I just feel it doesn't matter as long as you're happy. And then some people are just oh, women's supposed to perform like this, men's supposed to perform like that. There's also things are, not all, everyone's gonna fit in the same box. There's people in different extremes, so you can't just be this is how a woman's act, this is how a man's act, and apply that to everyone. And yeah, I remember I used to work with this one coworker. I remember she was really anxious about the decisions of Roe versus Wade, and really anxious up to that point. And the moment she found out that Roe versus Wade overturned, I think she went kind of insane. And my brain just this woman's crazy. I don't know what, I kind of get the premise of it at first, but I'm just why do you care so much, and then she was talking about The Handmaid's Tale. I still haven't watched it or read the book. I started one episode. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but I seen people wear the outfit to protest and things, so I can see the significance of it. And I remember thinking, I was this lady is insane. She was talking about, oh, all this thing is gonna come true, they're gonna take away our rights to contraceptions and all that stuff. And I'm just there's no way. And as the days go on, I'm yes, wait, very very possible that's what's happening right now, and it feels we're going backward. And it's so frustrating. The fact that I didn't care before is insane to me, because I'm just I don't care what people do with their life. don't dictate mine. I just always kind of live that way. Like, how you live doesn't matter to me, but how I live matters to me because it's my life and you have no say in it, right? And when I was little, I really hate the idea of, well, I grew up thinking world's, you know, bubble, like rainbows and sunshine until I moved to America. Where I'm just kind of like open up my eyes a little bit, where I'm just like, maybe it's not. Maybe that's when the depression hits and all those things. And you're like, life is not all rainbows and sunshine. That's all a lie. And it's just like, that's when I just become, I was a girly pop, like all the girly things, dolls, colors, things and stuff, like pink and stuff. And I remember not wanting to like pink, not wanting to play with dolls, because I don't want to become the image of how a woman should be, how a girl should act, how a girl should be. I don't want to just like date, get married, have kids. Like, I don't want to follow like the plans that everyone's kind of like live by. I want to be like a rebel a little bit, because the idea of me being all those things doesn't make sense. Like, I cannot, like, that cannot possibly be me. My life needs to be different. But as I get older, I'm just like, liking pink, liking girly things doesn't make me act the same as the majority. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, why preventing myself from liking something that won't make me become an idea that someone think of me? I can still be me and like the things I do, and that makes me who I am. And it was really hard for me to understand that concept, because I'm just like, I'm not in a box. But I'm like, I put myself in a box of all the things I cannot do, when all those things that makes me and make me what I like, why live life that way, right? And I'm kind of getting a little bit better at that. And I think like all my fears and things just kind of like really scare, because I'm like, I don't want to be another like kind of like scenarios of, I don't know, right? I don't know, of like adulting. You gotta adult, right? And all those things you're supposed to do as an adult the traditional way. And I hate it. I feel like I cannot be a traditional wife. I cannot be a traditional woman, you know. I thought I was like, oh, you know, I don't need no man kind of vibes. And I'm just like, it's okay. You can still be happy, appreciate it, and that's okay. That doesn't make you weak or anything like that. And I think it's down to like having your own choice. We kind of went like off track a little bit. And I remember I was like, this lady is kind of insane, whatever. And I kept thinking about her over the year, because I'm like, all these things and all the people that got called crazy, or the women that called crazy, they're like, okay, hey, you know, let's turn off our period tracking apps and all that stuff, because that could possibly be a way for women to be exposed, and all these companies, you know, sell your data and things like that, expose you being pregnant and stuff. They're like, don't text anybody, etc. And then I'm just like, all the misinformation's out there of, you know, the abortion pill, morning after pills and all those things. And then what is, you know, what's a fetus look like when they're young. And then with this, all the pictures that's been circulating around, like the popular ones, that's not a human like fetus and stuff. And it's just surprising to me that, of course, misinformation gets spread more easily, widely, compared to so many, you know, professional people in the field talking about it. And it's not heard as much because people don't want these kind of news, but they want to believe what they believe. And yeah, now the more I think about it, I remember being so mad. I was in Florida during the elections. They were voting for, you know, the terms, what's the terms amount that you can still like able to get an abortion. And I remember it was like 4 something, article 4, whatever. And I remember being so mad because the percentage is so slightly so small, and it didn't pass. And it's not majority rules anymore. It's like you have to meet a certain percentage. And I'm just like felt so sick. I'm like, most people don't know they're pregnant by, I believe it's like 6 weeks, right? And I fear of like a total like abortion ban. And now it's just like how we see in Texas, it's scary of how people, like, the fetus, what's in your body, it's considered a person when it's criminalized you, because the mother's body doesn't matter. The mother's body doesn't matter because the fetus, the children, the baby inside, or before the baby inside, matters more than the person carrying it. And what's considered a medical emergency before it can be intervened, because, right? And then if doctors are being charged really harshly, wanting to protect their patients and help them out, how many deaths would it take for people to realize that abortion should be a choice? Like, what your belief, it just becomes the thing where your beliefs is better than mine. It's not, respect for our religions or respect for all choices and voices and all the things are heard. It's like Christian value. Not all Christians are bad, but it's just like, it's just the whole debate. It's like, God's giving you this baby or whatever to care of. That's your responsibility to give birth to it and stuff. Even if it's endanger your life, you could die from it. And I think, like, I might be selfish. I just think that's just a scary thing. I don't want to live or be forced to make a choice of mine versus an unborn baby, and give up my life to even have the chance of thinking of like, oh, the possibility of me getting pregnant is I might die and my life might not worth anything. That is scary, and I don't even want to think about it, and I shouldn't even think that should be the reality we're living in, right? And it's just like, oh, the fetus life matter. What about the destructions of life of the child or the person that's got raped? Men don't get accountable for those things. Things are so easy for them. But when you get pregnant by accident or things like that, you're a whore. When you have freedom of choice, you're a whore. When men do that, it's okay. It's normal. You don't get penalized for it. You don't have the responsibility. And I might be selfish, but I'm just like, you might impregnate somebody, right? But you might be impregnating somebody. But the fact that you think you have a choice over that person's body makes no sense to me. If the person's sick, if they can't carry it, if they don't want it, and you're forcing it on someone, like, pregnancy change. I've never been pregnant before, and then I honestly don't care for it. I'm just like hearing all the things and things that people go through. It's already hard enough, and the amount of men leave people when they're pregnant and things like that because you can't wait a couple months to have sex again. It's kind of freaking ridiculous to me, or not prepare for the changes that the woman's body go through to even like talk about that, right? So I'm just like, in the end, it's the woman's body and you're forcing it on them and they have no choice of it. Sounds like a dystopia that we're living in right now, and it's freaking sickening. And then and now a lot of like AI things just like out of nowhere pushed onto you. Every single app has AI chat, AI search, and things like that. And people are literally not talking in terms of like, they're not searching, just like doing the bare minimum searching. They're like, chat told me that, chat told me that. You have to realize they don't know the correct answer. It's all the information. And sometimes if you get incorrect information, you can make up information. And why don't you listen to people, authority, like credible? There are some people who like to use their authority and act, but then they tell you things that are incorrect. That happens. But I'm just like, why are you listening to someone who just sounds so fake? And I feel like to the point where people are just so used to getting a ton of information and not verifying it, they will believe in anything, right? And then I just watched an episode on the rest of science with and it's about whether we should use I think the title was if we still should use like Face ID anymore. And it talks about our data, our minds. It's just like what our thoughts, what our ideas, you know, that's captured in our brain. Even if we don't say it, what is still able to criminalize us. It talks about how, you know, if you have a Face ID, there's like debates whether, you know, you can use it if you're like force it for you to unlock something and then get your information in your phones and stuff. Does that mean that if you search something up, that doesn't mean that you actually did it, right? But if they use your biometrics and things like that to unlock your things, are you willingly toe on yourself? And then there is also like, you can scan your brains and reconstruct your thoughts and things like that. It's not widely used or like accepted yet, but I'm just like, for that future where nothing is truly ours, even our thoughts, our dreams can be reconstructed. There's an experience on that and stuff. How safe are we, you know, of just having control over our own thoughts, our own brain? Can it be manipulated where we think it's our own ideas, but it's been forced upon us because an algorithm that thinks they know us better than we do because they collect information from us? And that was just a really interesting video I think you should look into. But it is so scary. Back to it. I think it's so scary. Sometimes I just honestly cry about it because I'm like, you feel so helpless. Like you have no autonomy over your body. And then also that makes dating and being with someone much more scarier if you have a potential of being pregnant, because how trustworthy of the person that if anything happened that, you know, you're pregnant, will you still stay with you? Will they take care of you? Will they still be there, or they will just abandon you? Or like if worst case scenario something happened to you carrying the baby, do you have a choice for your body? Do you have a choice or say in that? And then I remember watching videos and things like that, like before all this movies and things, and I'm just like, I think it's like Destined to Love You or Fated to Love You, something. It was like the K-drama versions, the one I watched, not the Taiwanese one I like too. And it's just this girl, you know, she really likes, they accidentally made baby, like accident things like that, and they kind of fall in love and things, and then she just they just agreed to, you know, be together, blah 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 blah. And then she really loves this baby and then really excited to give birth to it, and then an accident happened, and then she was literally crying, was like, please save this baby, you know, like don't worry about me, like save the baby. But the guy loved her so much and have to make the decisions, and then he was just like, save the mom, even though he knows that she will be really mad at him and stuff. And then I remember thinking at that time, if I'm with someone and that happened to me, I need to make sure the person will choose me over anything else. I think it might be selfish. Some people want to be the mom and that's everything they want to be or do. I'm not compelled. Like, I don't feel like anything towards that. And I just remember thinking, my life matters. I need someone who chooses me over anything. And that is scary when you don't know who out there and who has control, who has a say over you, over like life and death and things like that. And I'm just like, that should not be like up to all the men in the Supreme Court. And that just made me so mad. The fact that you have daughters, you have kids, and your choice is to harm them is ridiculous. I don't know. Let's not get too much into it, but it's just scary. And I remember watching videos. It's more like informative, and then talk breakdown about pregnancies and things like that. This is from, I think she's an OBGYN. You can find her on YouTube and TikTok too, I think. Mama Dr. Jones. I really like, she talk about like unexpected pregnancy, those programs and stuff, or like cases and how legal it is, and then if things are followed right, and it's just like knowing what happened, break down if things are done right or not. Just, I don't know. I don't plan on being pregnant, but just like knowing those things give you an ease of mind that someone care or someone know what they're doing and stuff. But yeah. And then another thing is just the rebranding of traditional wife. Before, people want to break out the mold. They don't want to be a traditional wife, traditional woman, doing all those things. They want to be independent, able to work and all that stuff. And now it's the rebranding of, it's an honor to serve your husband, to lead. It's an honor, and just make it sounds like, and I feel like those people have a choice, right? Majority of people who got big making all those contents, you are privileged. You are making those content, but you might not live that. You have money, you have access. Nowadays, like, sometimes it's really hard to live up one income and things like that. And then when anything happens, you have nothing to fall back to if like things doesn't go one way, your way, breakups and things like that. And then just having kids, all that stuff. And some people doesn't want to have kids. Some people doesn't feel like that's their role. That's something they feel honored to. And I'm a true believer in, not everyone's deserve to be parents, because I feel like if you give birth to a kid and have them take care of you, that's as your retirement plan, is so selfish. It's like, oh, I'm give birth to you, and then you have to work every way to repay me. Or like I feel like you should think of like the worst possible outcome. At least that's me, that's always do. It's like, if you're not prepared for your kids being disabled, not able to make it, things like that, all the worst possible outcome. Not everyone's gonna be like, get all limbs and all that stuff. So it's just like, if you're not prepared for that, and then when the baby come out maybe disabled and things like that, like, you might not able to take care of the baby, and that's just not fair for them because they didn't ask to be born. Like, that, some people might disagree with that, but that's just like my take on it. And I think it's just like so scary. It's just like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with, it's just like rebranding of just like, you have no longer choice of like, oh, let your man lead, let your man make decisions for you, this and that. And we're not talking about like the king community and things like that. And I just feel like people typically take it wrong of just like, oh, this is still my idea of like traditional wife's idea of like modern tech right now. It's just wanting to be submissive, similar to like the king environment, except you do not have consent. You are not agreeing to, hey, this is my boundary, this and that. It's you willingly give up everything, and you have nothing to like fall back on. Just like, hey, you have control, you can do this, you can do that, I'll serve you, this and that. But you're not in an agreement where you're just like feeling honored, or there's a boundary set or set of protections. That's just how I feel. And I feel like it's not far-fetched from just like, hey, and I saw a video, I cannot find it anymore, just like, you get content from like cooking content and all that stuff to eventually content of like extreme traditional wives ideas down to people. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like if you teach kids, young teenagers and stuff like that, of like, hey, that's what you should aspire to be. They might not know there's other possibilities where you can do other things. Nothing wrong with traditional wife, but there's other things that you can do, out there, and that's not the only way. And then people often think it's like a glamorized thing, but if you look into like histories and things like that, is people ask, it's like women's always been working. They do unpaid work labor, or they get paid less than men, or like not everyone are rich back then. And I saw videos, I think it's on like history hits, of like living a life as, just like an ordinary Victorian person, Victorian men and stuff like that. It's a very hard life. You got no protections, you don't have any like sort of like our regulations, payment, things like that. So it's like you fantasize of living how it was back then, simpler, blah 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 blah. But the reality is people were poor. People don't have much of a choice, don't have ways of advancing themselves. They're working slave away to get little money to get by, right? And then same with women, they have to work, they have to do all sort of things to able to make ends meet to support a family. So before you think of traditional wives and things like that, I feel like women's always work, they just might not get paid, they might not get paid well, and it's just not what expected, but it's just reality of how it is sometimes. And I don't know, it's just funny to me that some of the ideas I thought back then, just like why now, like none of it makes sense of. But I think as I get older, I get more exposure of just like life is more than just rainbow and sunshines, and then also trying to be understanding of other people and where they come from too, and just like different culture, the way they act and things like that. So sometimes don't be offended so quickly and just hear people out, and then also like knowing when to stop wasting your time, because some people just not waste your time, right? Let's see what else. Another thing, this is from one of my class, actually from one of my class forever ago, maybe in like middle school. I thought it was interesting, like all those topics. I don't remember what the course was called or about, but it would just be like give you like the title or something like that, and then you write your thoughts on it, and the title is typically really catchy and things like that. And I remember my brain just automatically was like wrong, right, it's not, like I don't think like in between, right? One of them was like, it's called The Earth's Flat. Oh my gosh, I forgot his name, let me look it up. Is flat, globalization. Oh, how globalization has flattened the world. That was by Thomas Friedman. I remember just hearing from the title that the world is flat. And then I was like, I don't know how accurate this is. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, the world's not flat. This is blah, 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 and all that stuff. And it talks about globalizations and how we, outsource things and things like that. And we're more connecting than ever. And that just makes me feel like, after I read that, I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense. And now the world is more flat than ever, according to Thomas Friedman, and how things are so connected, and how, of course, business, we want more profits, this and that. So you want to get labor somewhere cheaper. Once this countries is like on the rise and stuff, you find another source of cheaper is like constant exploitations and stuff. Because once you get something cheap and stuff, you don't want to pay more. That's how it is. And then another one, so that's just like of how, sometimes I'm just so quick to react to things and not trying to find out like what this person means. I just think like, this is the most ridiculous thing ever, and they are wrong. And I'm glad I'm not like that anymore. I try to like listen to people, hear them out. Another thing is about, I don't remember what article we were reading, but whether graffiti is art. And I had the hardest time understanding graffiti because the teacher was trying to explain to us a mural versus graffiti. Graffiti where you vandalize properties and things like that versus a mural where they pay to have things on there. And it also can be graffiti style, right? And I don't remember what I said. What I think you have to argue for or against. I also hate argumentative, like I say, because it's just like sometimes I don't agree on both things, and then towards the end you have to like cite about the other side and how they could be right, but ultimately you're right. I don't like that. Sometimes it's not a right or wrong. It could be an in-between where it's you're leaning 70% this way, 30% the other way, and it's no correct answer how it is in real life, I feel. And now I think I'm like my second podcast. I think I talk more about like how I feel about art. I feel like everything can be art, and graffiti definitely is art. Now I think about it, I strongly believe it is art. It represents a moment in time. It represents the people. It represents ideas, and it's just like I remember reading about, I think the story during in the class about like the subway, like New York subway, and that become something iconic that represent the landmark, right? And I don't know, now I see art everywhere, and before my idea of art is just so narrow. It's just like pretty things. I don't remember my stand on the graffiti, of course, but it's so narrow. And I remember learning so much about like art histories. Just like I was just so into it, but my idea of it is so small. Now I see it in terms of poetry, writing, the art of war, the art of like argument. They're just like a way for thing, and anything could be artsy if you have the artsy eye, or that's just your way of looking at it, right? And let's see if I have anything else that I was like strongly disagree before. I think that's pretty much it. I don't know, this is just like a little self-reflections, like going back in time of just how I've evolved and my ideas can like change over time. It might change beyond now, but yeah, thanks for listening. I hope this was fun. I'm trying to do this every 2 weeks. Let's see how long that will be. This is actually the most fun I have making anything. But yeah, if you like this, comment, likes, and subscribe. Yeah, see you in 2 weeks.